Hey guys, this is Bruce. Welcome to Convocourses podcast. Every week we talk about GRC topics, cybersecurity topics, and it's from the perspective of somebody who's been in this field for quite some time. And I field questions about how to get in this field, how to stay in this field, how to upgrade, and also just how it works. Like what is GRC? What kinds of things you need to do? What those are some of the things that I talk about. And so this week is no different. So I do want to talk a little bit about. I want to address some of the comments that I've been getting on YouTube. So let me go ahead and set that up. It's I've been getting a lot more interaction from people, getting a lot more exposure than I'm used to, and just I have a full time job, so that's why sometimes I can't get to everybody's comments. I used to be a lot more interactive with people's comments, but if you're wondering why I haven't answered your questions, that's the reason why. Is 'cause I just get a lot more. I'm getting a lot more engagement in email and in comments on all platforms. Just I'm getting a lot more engagement, and my job hasn't slowed down, and so that's what's going on. Before I jump into these questions here, I wonder if I have any questions on TikTok. A lot of times I'll have a ton of questions on TikTok, and I'm getting nothing on TikTok. So we're going to go ahead and answer some of these on YouTube. Okay, got some new subscribers. That's cool on YouTube. Um, Somebody asked me, Bruce, do you have an LLC or are you now a 1099 contractor? So the answer to this question is I work as I'm a full time employee at a company. And so the difference, so you guys know, the question he's asking is what you can do in this field, IT field or cybersecurity, is you can work independently as an independent contractor where you have your own LLC or own business, and then um, the hours are charged. Or whenever you get paid, your business is getting paid rather than you. And the reason why some people do it that way is because if basically you're getting more money because they're not you have to pay the taxes directly from your company to the government rather than them doing it. So that's 1099, you're going to get paid more money. And if you're a full-time employee, uh, it's different. And there's pros and cons to each one of those things. So if 1099 with an LLC or S corp or whatever company you have working directly with another company is like a B2B business. So some of the pros is that you make more money because they're giving you your entire money and they're not taxing it. They're just giving you the money. You do the work for the hours and then they pay you. Um, that's the cons. I mean, one the pros is that you make more money. Another thing is that you get a little bit more freedom because you're working out your hours with them because they're treating you like a business. So you're it's a lot more flexible when you do that. I've done both. It's a little bit more flexible. They pay you more, um, and you're kind of a. They understand that you might take on other work too, because they're just billing you per hour. So you might have this business that you're working with, and this other business, and this other business, and you could actually hire people. So it's actually way more scalable because you could hire people under your business and then have them help you out with that work or whatever. It depends on what kind of relationship you have with that company. So that's those are the benefits that you could scale it, you make more money, and you're way more flexible with hours and stuff. With full-time employee, you're the benefits are that the company is going to take care of all the back end stuff, all the HR department stuff. So you don't have to worry about that. They're just paying you a check. You're not worried as much about the taxes because they're taking care of that, and they have all these extra benefits. A larger company or medium sized company might have they're going to usually have more. A larger company is going to have sometimes more access to things like medical, dental, vision, stuff like that. They'll have like these big deals with these other healthcare companies, or these other financial companies that do gigantic 401ks, and then sometimes they'll give you stocks and stuff. So all the benefits that you get from that company are definitely a pro. Now let's talk about cons. A 1099, the cons are, if you're doing independent contractor work and it's B2B, you have your own business, and your business is actually doing GRC or IT work with them, or whatever you're doing. You can, this also applies to taxes and HR. All of those you could do 1099 with, depending on your relationship with that company. I would say the pros is that you have to do all the back end work. So number one, finding companies that will do 1099. That can be, they're out there, but to have a good deal with them, that's challenging. It's a little bit more challenging than finding like an employee type situation that's more stable. 1099 is not stable at all. Another thing is you have to handle all your health care, dental care, all that stuff, which you can do now. You could have your own LLC or your S corp or whatever, and it has its own. You can have it can have its own medical, dental, and all that kind of vision, all that kind of stuff. Taxes is another one. So you at the end of the year have to pay your taxes on your. So that means you gotta have to do all your own accounting and making sure that like everything's above board. Especially if you're trying to be scalable, it's way better if you do everything the right way. Because if you're trying to hire people and things like that, it just gets super complicated. Not to say you can't do it, you totally can do that, but it's just going to get way more complicated. You might have to hire a whole nother person or people to help you out to manage it, because it just gets super. Especially if you're talking about other hiring other people to do certain things, because then you have a payroll and all that kind of stuff. So those are the cons of doing a 1099. The cons, the bad things about an employee is that it doesn't pay as much. You're subject to whatever laws that they have in their culture, so you have to fit in, which could be a good or bad thing. But the bad part of that is that you got to do what they say. Period. I mean, you have to do what they tell you to do, and you have to fit into their culture. Bad things about being an employee versus a 1099. You can get lulled into a false sense of security, because even though 1099 is way more volatile, you might have a false perception that you're more secure in your employee position, and that it depends on the company you're working with. So I would say those are the pros and cons. Overall, having done both, I prefer being an employee until I do have. The reason why I like being an employee is because I can do my own. I do stuff outside of IT work. So for IT, I like being an employee, but for my other stuff, I don't want to do employee stuff at all with that stuff. So I keep those two things separate. So for me personally, I can see how a person would like a 1099 better, but for IT and cybersecurity, I personally like being an employee better, because I'm trying to use this as a stepping stone to do something else I want to do. And so that thing that's something else has nothing to do with companies. That's my own company. It's my own thing. And I kind of just keep the two separate. So that's kind of, those are the pros and cons. So they asked me a question, and the question is, what do I do? I'm just going to go ahead and answer them real quick. I am an employee, but I do some contract work on the side and have a separate LLC. That's what I do. And that's been working for me so far. If it stops working, maybe one of these days I'll go full blown, do more 1099. Maybe I just didn't do it right. I'm not opposed to doing more 1099 contracting work. Okay, let me answer some more questions. I don't have any questions on TikTok, and that might be because I'm doing TikTok in a different way. Let me see if I can access TikTok. It might be this new format. I don't know. All right. Let me see here. Let me go to. I'm not seeing. I apologize, guys. I'm not seeing. I'm not seeing anything from from TikTok, so I can't answer questions. All right, so I'm gonna keep going with YouTube. Um. Okay, here we go. Here's a good question. A question I can answer. Somebody asked me, "Thank you for your excellent presentation. Quick question: does every organization require a top secret clearance for an ISSO role?" Um, no, no, they don't. No, and let me explain why. So there's a misconception that all cybersecurity are GRC positions in an ISSO is an information system security officer, and that's a GRC person for the federal government. And no, they don't all need a top secret or secret clearance. Case in point, right now, the organization I work for, it's a 3-letter organization, federal government, US, and I don't have, it doesn't require a top secret clearance or a secret clearance. They do require what's called a public trust, and they do like a background, and that's technically not a clearance. Sometimes it's kind of pooled into the clearance world, but it's actually not a clearance. They just do a very thorough background check on you with that one. So no, not all positions require a top secret or secret clearance. And I think most of them will at least have a public trust a public trust background check. I'm sure all of them have some sort of background check. And the reason why is because cybersecurity, you're being entrusted with protection of some of their secrets, their proprietary information. You're being entrusted with access to some of the inner sensitive information, proprietary information. So they do need to make sure that you can be trusted. So there's some level of assurance that has to be done with cybersecurity, and there's just no way around it. So let me just say here, let me just go ahead and say no, not all require a public trust. I mean a TS or secret. Most, I would say all require some sort of background check. Most need public trust. Public trust. And I think to get a TS, no, for sure, to get a TS and the SCI, you're going to have to be a U.S. citizen for those. All right, let me see if I have any more questions here. Can you share your YouTube link in your channel? Okay, yeah, I can do that. Let me see. You want to get to my YouTube channel, it's going to be, give me a second here. Give me 1 second. Got so much, I got a lot of stuff going on here. YouTube.com/, how are they doing this these days? At Convocourses. There we go. At Convocourses. That's the way to get to me. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to answer some more questions here on YouTube. And I apologize. Normally, I get so many questions on TikTok, and I don't know what's going on with it. I'm not seeing any. I can't see anything that's happening. I don't know what's going on or what I'm doing wrong or whatever. But the best way to ask me questions right now is if you really have a question that you need answered is to go to YouTube, go to Facebook. I'm on all platforms. Okay, I'm seeing them now. Okay, I apologize, guys. I see them now. TikTok says, are there any projects I can create for GRC as a college graduate, which can put me, which I can put on my resume? You could, let me think. I haven't thought about that one. What things will help you out for TikTok for college graduate for a GRC project that you could put on your resume? One thing would be if you could write a security policy. Here's one thing you can do. Go to your school, whatever school you're at, and look at their security policy. Check out their security policy, and then do a security update their security policy form. Whatever they have going on, update their security policy. Their security policy should be based off of some kind of framework or standard. It might be ISO 27001. It might be NIST 800. It might be NIST cybersecurity framework. It might be CIS controls. Whatever it's based off of, you can update it and then present it to the staff. You could probably put something like that on your resume. Whether or not the college uses it, they might not use it, but you could totally put that on your resume that you wrote a cybersecurity policy for the college. And then if you get asked about that on your resume, just tell them what happened. I updated. You could tell them the truth. Like I updated I took it on myself to update their cybersecurity policy, and I did it in accordance with ISO 27001 2022, and then I presented it to the staff. I gave it to the staff, and they were impressed by it. That's one thing you could do. Another thing, what else could you do as a GRC person? GRC, there's tons of stuff you could do for IT work, but GRC is mostly governance, which is management type stuff. Risk, the R is the risk, and then C is compliance. So in one of those areas is what we're focused on. So another thing you could do for risk, or taking a risk-based approach for the GRC, would be to run a scan on their network. If they have wireless, which most colleges do on a campus or one of the sites of their campus, run a wireless scan, use some of the tools, and do a proper assessment of their network. And if you find anything, write up an assessment report. Do a risk assessment report based off of their wireless network and find all of the issues with their wireless. Maybe the wireless has a rogue access point that looks exactly like Texas A&M or something, but it's not the actual. It's a rogue access point. You could point that out. You probably find things like if they're not using the proper, or if they're not using strong enough encryption on their wireless network. If they, what else? If they maybe they're not reaching parts of the campus, find do a complete risk analysis of their network, put a report together on everything you find, and then give it to them. Now, that's one thing that you could put on your resume. And then if they use what you said, like if you sit down with the IT department and they use what you said, that's actually pretty huge. Especially if you find something really nice, if you find some real cool stuff once you're doing an assessment on their network, And I'm not telling you to hack their network. I'm telling you to be passive, just because there's no law against scanning their network. But now if you try to infiltrate the network, once you find holes or whatever, that's different. But if you just can do a scan as a part of a project, you could put that on your resume. And then here's the thing about the projects I just mentioned: doing a cybersecurity risk assessment of all the security on their campus, doing a wireless assessment on their campus, doing doing a security policy, rewriting a security policy and presenting it to them. The thing is, it's not intrusive, so you're not, I'm not telling you to do anything intrusive. I'm just telling you, write a report and present it. While you're doing it, you're going to learn frameworks. Like, you're going to have to look at a framework or a standard such as NIST CSF or CIS version V8 or ISO 27001. You're going to have to learn that in order to put that stuff together. And then wireless scanning, if you actually conducted this non-intrusive wireless scan, you would actually have to learn that what to do, what tools to use, how you have to have a whole technique of doing it. And then you probably find all this Bluetooth stuff. So you're gonna actually learn as you do it, and you'll be able to put that stuff on your resume. So those are a couple things you can do. Another thing you can do as a college student for projects is to start your own practice. Like, you could, if you're good enough, you could actually create your own company and be a freelancer and do stuff for local agencies. That's another thing you can do. Now, what I would recommend you do as a college person is to start like with any IT. Any IT is going to help you, right? Any IT. So student work programs for IT in the IT department on the school campus before you graduate, even, or after you, whatever. Apprenticeships, internships, they usually have some kind of programs that work with local business and stuff. That's another thing you can do. Any kind of IT is going to help you out when you're a beginner, because companies, what they really want is experience. And so that's any kind of legit experience you can put on your resume is going to really be helpful. And he said, I'm learning about FSMA compliance at the moment, and also looking into internships. Yeah. So FSMA is federal government. And so one of the things you can do, or what I would recommend you do, is to look into internships with the government, because they have a ton of them. They have a lot. I mean, every now and then they're sending me the Department of who sent it to me? Department of State has sent me a couple of things about internships and apprenticeships, and government's always looking for people, because the thing is, they have a whole bunch of people who are kind of retiring right now. A whole bunch of people who are getting out of this work. A bunch of boomers, a bunch of people who are our parents are retiring. They're getting out of it. So we're always struggling for people. So the government, which is FSMA, that's what you're doing now. And a lot of people think government is just DOD or military. It's not. So you got so many different federal agencies, and they kind of behave differently. So, for example, if you work in I worked in NASA. NASA they move totally different than the Department of Defense, of which I work for as well. And then you've got, who else? You've got Department of Agriculture. You got Department of Interior, FBI. You've got intelligence organizations. They all move different from one another, but they all kind of use FSMA. So because they have to, it's mandated that they have to use FSMA. So the more you know about FSMA, the better. And then FSMA, their main publication is the NIST 800 series. So that's another good one to learn. So FSMA is about what government mandates, what federal organizations do, but NIST 837 and 853 tell them what to do, what they're supposed to do. So what the government agencies are doing right now is they'll take NIST 837, NIST 853, and they're tailoring it to fit their organization. Like, they don't use all the controls. They'll use any controls that fit to what they need to do, for example. So I hope that helps you out. I'm going to keep going through some of my questions from YouTube because I don't want to ignore people here. Let me see here. Somebody said, this one I have to read context. Get into IT, but not super technical. Oh, okay. So I did this video where I talked about getting into IT, but not being super technical, which is kind of what I've been doing the last few years, doing GRC type work. Because what I was saying in there is that all cybersecurity, all information security is not super hands-on. I know because that's what I've been doing for the last, 10 years, non-technical type work. That said, I still need to know how computers work. But I'm just saying, like, there's a whole bunch of jobs that are adjacent or aligned with or actually in cybersecurity that you don't have to be on the computer configuring stuff. And I mentioned project management and I mentioned GRC type work. Now, some of it is technical, but a lot of it is not. Like the policy officers and things like that are not hands-on technical, but we do have to know something about computers. All right, so her question is, or comment is, this is the route that I took. I'm not super technical, but I do know some things. I recently graduated from WGU with my master's in information technology management, and that includes the CAPM certification as part of the curriculum. The PMP is next. So PMP is fire, by the way. That's a very good. It's a project management certification that pays. And I'm thinking I want to try to get a Security Plus cert. Very good cert, very marketable. And I'm aiming for the GRC sector due to my healthcare experience in dealing with HIPAA and laboratory compliance, CLIA. Wow. She's my girl's doing exactly what you're supposed to do. Like this is I couldn't have given better advice than this, especially with her background and everything she's doing. This is perfect. She's making the perfect moves. So number one, she's getting her degree from a accredited college. Great move. Because, and I'm not saying everybody absolutely has to get a degree, but it's just more competitive. Like, not only is it gonna put you above, it give you more opportunities above somebody else who doesn't have a degree, but also it's going to give you time to build up a network of people who are going to go out and get jobs, going to go get apprenticeships and internships, and you start to meet people who are going to be in this field for a long time. So that's also a really great thing about it. And once you get in, it pays you way better to get a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or even an associate's degree. You're just going to get paid better without having to rely 100% on certifications. And certifications are great, but degrees are better. That's just facts. And it depends. I mean, there are some high-level certifications like a CISSP or a CCNP or CCIE or something like professional level high, expert level certs that are better than some degrees, than most degrees, I would say. But with experience, way better. But not everybody can get to that level. You know what I mean? Because even the CISSP, you're supposed to have 5 years of experience before you even start taking the test. So, and the other ones, CCNP and CCIE and some of the other super high level certifications, you might as well just go to school. You might as well just go to college. It's easier to go to college than to get some of these certifications. I'm not even bullshitting you. Okay, so another thing she's doing right that stood out to me is aiming for the GRC with her background in HIPAA. So she's using all of the experience this is what I always tell people to do. Start where you are. She's using her background. She already has a background in healthcare, and she's building off of that background to get into GRC because it aligns perfectly with what she's doing. With her background, she should be able to get into fields like pharma. Pharma has a huge need for people like us, GRC type people, who can point them in the right direction and secure their systems but also make sure that they're in line with the business essential functions that they have to do, right? Protecting patient information, uh, making sure that there's systems that are dealing with with proprietary patents for drugs are protected, things like that. So she can get into GXP. Like she probably fit right into GXP for pharma and laboratory compliance. That's another thing she mentioned. Perfect way. Like start where you are, wherever you happen to be, whether in retail. Retail has its own type of security. Whether you're in manufacturing, whether you're in the government already, especially vets. If you're in the financial sector, all those you might be able to use the experience you already have to position yourself into a higher level, higher paying, more stable IT or GRC type position. Okay, let me see here. What else do we have? I did this video about the Kia challenge. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that, but this video this is I wouldn't say it was quite viral, but it's almost got 1 million views. I mean, I think it's 500,000 by now. It's a little over 500,000. I don't know, but all I did was comment on what it was. You know, some people are hot wiring Kias because Kia has some kind of real bad flaw on it. That one in Hyundai's. Okay, let me see. See if I have any more comments on. All right, let me see here. No more comments here. Another comment on D-Truth says, okay, what is this video? Get a different job. Okay. So somebody commented on this one where they were saying, let me show my screen here on YouTube. Somebody was saying that how stressful their job was in this video and how abusive the organization and the people or the client was or something like that. And they were stressed out every day. And my response was to get another job. Because our job as cybersecurity people, one thing that's not mentioned is how stressful it can get working with these organizations who've been breached or insider threats, or it can be stressful. Like I myself do get some stress. Like my main stress comes from we don't have enough people to do the work and they will not hire more people. Or I guess they're hiring people, but the vetting process takes 4 months or whatever. So it's just that's been my difficulty. But also secondary to that would be dealing with difficult people in the organization. Customers, peers, managers. Managers sometimes can be the worst. Like managers who are dealing with them who can't communicate well or just not people. They're in a management position, but they don't know how to deal with people. They don't have emotional intelligence, and I have to deal with them. I have to talk to them. I have to interact with them. I have to be in line with what they're doing and everything. That is very difficult. And so this person in this video was saying that she's dealing with this and doesn't know what to do, and it's just she's stressed out. And if you get to this point, I think it's time to leave. Like if you get to a point where, and I'm not telling you to just give up as soon as you meet your first asshole, you know. I'm not saying that because that's it kind of comes with the territory of this job. You're gonna have to deal with people who are difficult. You're gonna have to learn how to speak their language, and it does get stressful. But if it's abusive and you find yourself having anxiety, which is what happened in this video here, she talks that I responded to in this comment. I think it's just time to go. And I've found myself in this situation before, and just you don't have to deal with this, especially if you're in cybersecurity. You can get a job, right? It might take you a while to find a job that's comparable to the kind of pay or comfort level that you have at that job or with the right benefits or whatever. But just take your time, keep your job, right? And then just start working on finding another job, right? That's what my recommendation to her was. And somebody else commented on this. D Truth says, I'm currently in a similar situation. Government contract that I'm currently on. The leadership is incompetent, impatient, unprofessional, demanding, and has been verbally abusive in the past. And I have committed myself to finish the project that's currently in place. Once the project is complete, I plan to move on. And always remember that our skill set is always in demand. So there are jobs out there, and it's just about picking the right one for you. Man, this man is speaking truth to power. Like, this is what I'm talking about. It's exactly my attitude. My next job, I will be interviewing them as much as they're interviewing me. Man, beautifully said, man. D Truth, he comes on here all the time. Him and I talk all the time on comments. I hope maybe one day he can jump on here with me and also offer advice. Always has great advice here. But I want to talk about this one because this is a good one. This is a good one. So, cybersecurity can be very, very stressful. But there's a difference between the normal daily stress of maybe you have there's too much work to do, or you have to you have to learn to communicate with the difficult CISO, or a difficult CIO, or maybe there's a manager that's a little snippy sometimes, or people getting their feelings about a breach or about whatever's happening. That I think that's understandable, right? That's reasonable. But sometimes I've been in organizations, and it's not the whole. Typically, it's not the whole organization. Usually, it's not everybody. It's usually one or two people in the chain of command who are just stirring the pot. They shouldn't be leaders, but they've gotten to the leadership role by just attrition. Like, they just stayed long enough for everybody else to leave, and they make everybody else's life a living hell. And then you can usually tell because people are in and out. People are just in and out, in and out, in and out. People don't stay there. That's a telltale sign. It's one of the first questions you should ask on interviews, because that is a telltale sign that something is not right. Whether it's the culture, or they're allowing a few people to just run wild, or the leadership is just running everybody off a cliff. I've been in all those situations, and usually it's in the chain of command, and it's either an upper level manager or a mid-tier manager, because peers, you can kind of deal with them, right? You work with them when you have to, right? You work with them and then it's done or whatever. But if you have a manager that's in a place of power and they're directing everybody, and you have to deal with them, there's no way around it. It's like the agents in the Matrix, when Morpheus said, they hold all the keys, they're guarding all the doors, and so that means that, and someday, at some point, we're gonna have to face them. And that's what happens with these managers who are just, man, it's different things. Sometimes it's incompetence. Sometimes they're power crazy, and they want to just assert their dominance over everybody. So they talk down and disrespect people, write meetings or on email and blast it out to everyone. Or sometimes they're very poor with communication. It's not that they're stupid. It's not that they're tyrants on purpose. They're just really bad with communicating. And how they got there is because of their talent, their IT talent, or they just been there so long that they just kept leveling up slowly over time. And, so these people in the chain of command is where it really messes things up. It causes chaos. It causes people to have anxiety. It causes a large amount of turnover where people are coming in and out and in and out. And you can't get people longer than about 2 years there, and then they're out because they just can't take it anymore. And they're good people, like, especially when you have good people leaving. That's a telltale sign something's not right. So whenever you do an interview when you find your new job, make sure you ask them that question, like, what's the turnover rate? How many people have been in this position in the last 4 years, 5 years? And if they don't have a very good reason why 5 people have quit in 5 years, it should tell you something. Or if they start laughing, here's how you know. here's how you know. What happens is, in the meeting, you'll ask them, you'll be in the interview, right? And you say, well, they'll say, hey, well, do you have any questions for us? Great interview. Um, Sounds like a good fit, but we'll see. Do you have questions for us, right? At the end. And then you ask that question. Like, I'm sure you're going to ask about travel. You'll ask about like working. What are the shifts like? Where's the office? Whatever, those kind of questions. But make sure you ask this question: what is the turnover rate for this position? How many people in the last 5 to 6 years have been in this position? And if they start laughing, like, ha, 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 and then they, because that's what they do. And then they're like, oh yeah, we've had a few people leave, right? Like, we just people keep leaving out of here, but they usually go on another position, blah, blah, blah. They stay within our company, but they go somewhere else. It's telling you something's not right with that particular position. And they've had to replace it several times because the managers are assholes, or they're very domineering and very disrespectful to workers, or they just don't know how to communicate correctly, or it's a customer. Like, they're making hundreds of millions of dollars from this customer, so they can't drop them. But the representative who you have to deal with for that customer is just an asshole. It just mean spirited, doesn't know how to handle stress at all, just attacks you, treats you like a little kid, patronizing. That stuff happens, man. I mean, and I would say if it gets too bad, if you're in that position, just start looking for another job. There's tons of jobs, just like D Truth says in this comments over here. There's tons of other jobs. Just go to another job and move on. Move on with your life. You're not gonna have no problem finding another job. It might take some time for you to find the one you want. And then if you're in the interview, make sure you ask that question: how many people have been in this position? Like, what's it been like, the shift work? So that's a very good question. All right, let me see if I have any more questions here. That's a great question from D Truth. Daily tasks of an ISO. Somebody said, listening to you, it sounds like it's very easy to transition from a CPSO to an ISSO, especially since I have taught computer background, a self-taught computer background, working on getting a security plus. Anything else I should focus on? Well, I don't know what a CPSO is, so let me see what this is. Let me see what a CPSO is real quick. That is well, there's different kinds of CPSOs, so I don't know. I don't know what a CPSO is, so I can't answer this question. Anybody else know what a CPSO is? Let me see. I guess I could ask them, what is a CPSO? What is a CPSO? Mm-hmm. All right, let me see. What else do we have here? And if you guys are joining late, all I'm doing today is just answering questions mainly from YouTube, because I've been neglecting it lately. But if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to ask. Let me see. This one is... This is about me installing one of my floodlights. My house, I did about a year ago, and then years before that. Okay, this one is just thumbs up on that one. TLS does not help with a cross-site scripting attack. Oh, okay. My bad. I should shut up when it comes to technical stuff, huh? I think I created a, what was this one? Oh, okay. I did this free. I did a video where I was just breaking down. Was this the one where I did poems, plan of action, and milestones? I don't remember. I was talking about controls for 853, and then I might have mentioned cross-site scripting as an example, and then I said TLS, and he says TLS does not help with cross-site scripting attacks. That's my bad. Okay, what's this? SSCP compared to Security Plus, 8140 baseline certifications. I think I was talking about the IT field, and he says, somebody said, it's too competitive, gatekeeper field. Hiring managers throw half the stack of resumes away just like that. They watch techs with work. They want techs with work experiences. They want internal transfers. Search don't get you in. Not what you know, it's who you know. Okay, I disagree with this. I disagree with this statement. It doesn't. It's too. What do I think about this statement? I disagree. It is competitive. Some of it makes sense. It is a competitive field. But I would say it's worth it. It is competitive, but it's worth it. They throw half the stack of resumes away, and I would argue the reason why they throw resumes away is because us IT people, most of IT and cybersecurity people don't know what to put on their resume. I would say a resume is a very poor indication of who and what you are and what you've done. The best we can do is put the most applicable IT experience to the job you're trying to fit into. And the way you do that, there's some tricks that you can use to do that. And the reason why I say this is because I'm constantly getting contacted. I'm constantly getting contacted with different opportunities for IT and cybersecurity. Like constantly, every day, I'm getting emails. I'm getting people messaging me on LinkedIn. It's not a coincidence, right? It's definitely not my looks. I mean, it's my resume, so I know what to put on there, and it's very targeted. That resume is very, very targeted. My profile, very, very targeted. And the way I did it was I looked at the market. The market has certain demands. So what I'm saying is make your resume, make your profile and your resume, your presence online look like where you're trying to fit in. Like for me, I'm trying to get GRC positions. So most of the cybersecurity risk positions, security policy positions, people are hitting me up about those jobs because I put it on my resume. I know that that's in demand. I know that that's what they want. So I put all the key words and key phrases that they want to see there. I mean, I actually have that experience as well. That's very important. But there's ways you could put it on there with little experience, or even just the skill set for that. No experience, but the skill set. You got to get it on your resume though. You got to ask yourself, what does this field want? Whatever field you're trying to get in, whether it's if you're a network engineer, there's a specific thing the employers want from a network engineer at different tiers now. Like you might have Architects, they're looking for certain things. If you're trying to be an architect, they're looking for a certain kind of skill set and knowledge base for a network architect. If you're an intermediate person, like who knows Juniper really well, there's certain specific things and tools and devices that you got to put on your resume. Same thing with network administrators and junior level network people. There's certain things that they're looking for. How do you find those keywords and phrases? How do you get in the way of all that opportunity? The way you do it is find people who are already in the way of those opportunities. Here's how you do it. You can go to LinkedIn. I'll show you. Very few people listen to this part of my little speeches. I'm always shocked how few people listen to this little part. And it's kind of the most, if you're trying to get in this field, it's going to help you out quite a bit. And I got a lot of people jumping on my LinkedIn right now. So let me shut some of this stuff down. But here's what it looks like. I'm on LinkedIn right here. All right. So let's say you want to get in the way of opportunity of people doing GRC for PCI compliance. Now, GRC is a very broad field. So let's focus on retail. Retail, I know that retail IT uses a lot of what's called PCI compliance. Let's say you didn't even know that. Let's say you were just looking for any GRC. Okay, let's start broad and work our way down. Let's just type in GRC. Now, here's one thing you can do to try to get in the way of all the opportunity that's happening right now. We're going to look at jobs, keywords and jobs, and see what they're looking for. And we're going to look at other people's resumes. Let's start off with jobs. So let me make this screen a little bit bigger for people who's following me on YouTube. Okay, so let's look at jobs first. All I did was type in GRC, because let's say you don't know a lot about GRC and you're trying to get in, you don't have no idea what the keywords are. So first thing we're going to notice is that it's pretty broad. I mean, GRC is all over the place. You'll notice this in many different industries. SAIC is a global security company. They compete with people like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, places like that. I used to work for SAIC. It was a pretty good company when I worked there. And then you've got other GRC positions such as CDW. I don't know how much how much government work they do. And then you've got banks. Look at this. You've got a bank here. You got Terminix. Look at this. They're looking for a GRC analyst at Terminix. So right away, we're seeing that GRC is across all fields. Our next question should be, well, I want to go into whatever field. Like I'm not trying to be in Terminix. I'm not trying to be in the government. Maybe I want to be in the banking sector because I have a banking background. So let's look at that. Let's look at this one right here. This is from Regional Banks in Alabama. And we're not trying to work at this place. All we're trying to do is we're just trying to do some analysis here. So let's look at this. So what kinds of jobs do they have here? What I'm really interested in is what are the responsibilities of this job? Primary responsibilities. Okay, job is a risk liaison partner. This might not even be what we're looking for. Let's see. Serves as a connection between business and risk management. This might not be IT related. Yeah, I don't think this is IT related. So let's say we wanted to get into this. Now, right away, they're not using a lot of the same phrases that we would need for IT. Or are they? Let me see. CIA, CRM, Six Sigma. This looks more like it seems like there is some IT stuff here. I'm seeing PMP in here, or is that Six Sigma certifications? Not quite what we're looking for. It does have some technical stuff in there, but not quite. So let's say GRC we're trying to narrow down our search by a certain thing. So let's say GRC banking. we're starting broad, and then we're going to whittle this down so we can get keywords here. All right, I'm seeing HR department. I'm seeing human resources. I'm seeing a lot of human resources stuff. So maybe when they're thinking GRC in the banking sector, they're thinking HR departments, I guess. I don't know. That's weird. Let's look for, let's do an even broader search for this. Let's go to Google and then type in GRC bank. GRC banking industry. Let's just check this out. GRC. All right. So this company is breaking down what GRC is, their GRC program. We're doing some recon on GRC in the banking and financial sector. So let's start even broader in this field. We started with GRC. Now we're narrowing it down to just banks, but maybe that's a little bit too specific. Let's say financial sector. We want to know the keywords. We want to know what kinds of jobs are there, what positions, what roles do they have, what do they do, what kind of equipment did they use, what kind of skill sets do they typically talk about. All right, so GRC for the financial sector, governance, risk, and compliance for the financial sector. And here's a little article that's breaking down what they're looking for in GRC in the financial sector. See if I can pick up on anything, any kind of keywords here. And nothing's really popping out at me right now. So let's keep looking. Let's look for, when I just kind of go through a couple of these articles to see if anything pops out. For governance, risk, and compliance. Okay, now this one's breaking down what's going on. Okay, here we go. It's talking about what things does the financial sector look for in GRC. Risk governance, financial, operational, and IT risk management, audit and control activities, compliance. All right, now you're talking. Let's see, the impact of getting attacked. So it's definitely super important in the banking sector. They're talking about different attacks that have happened at different firms. That's great information. So we want to read as much as possible in this field. If you're serious about this, you've got to know something about this field. Now, if you're in the financial sector, you probably already know what keywords to look for, right? I'm not super heavy on financial sector, so I don't really know. Let's look through this here. No, this is not going to help us. Let's try this. Jobs. I'm on Google and I just typed in GRC financial jobs. I want to get some job titles, and I'm seeing a few here. Check this out. IT governance, risk, and compliance as a senior analyst. Cybersecurity GRC for Banner Health. And this is one of the things it's doing is that it's looking in my local area. So I want to expand my search. So now I'm seeing SAP GRC roles, and for from financial sectors in Colorado and Kansas. So now I'm getting at least some roles. Regulatory risk and analyst. What do they do? Let me see. So we're getting closer here. I'm gathering more and more information on what kinds of things that I need. And look at this. They have a ton of, they've got Scrum Master jobs. They've got project manager jobs in the financial sector. There's a lot of overlap between all the sectors, to be honest with you. So you're always going to have some kind of program or project managers. You're going to have leads in IT. You're going to have certain roles in every sector. But what we're looking for is like keywords for this particular sector. And this is one way you can do it, is looking at jobs and job titles in that sector. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. And I'm seeing a couple. I'm seeing compliance, audits, and enterprise risk approach within the SEC, regulated businesses. So I'm seeing some keywords here, but this is mostly for financial risk advisor. So that's not what we want. Cybersecurity GRC at financial trust. Okay, here we go. What are these guys looking for? So they're looking for, you get the idea, right? Like, look at this. Here you go right here. So here are all the frameworks that they're looking for. They want you to be fluent in some of these frameworks, maintain and understand an understanding of technology related to federal regulations, federal industry standards such as FFIEC, CRI profile, NIST, CSF, NIST 800, COBIT, ISO, that's 27,001, PCI compliance stuff. So they want you to know one of these things. And if you go through this, you'll start to pick up those kinds of keywords. So now you have an idea of what employers are looking for. Now what you can do is go to what people are putting on their resume. Why this is important is because on LinkedIn, a lot of job aggregators don't do this. One of the unique and awesome things about LinkedIn is it shows other people's resumes. So you can kind of get an idea of your competition with LinkedIn. And make no mistake about it, some of these people are going to be competing for the same job. The great thing about this is some people put their entire resume and their resume and their entire work history on their profile. And I do too, as a matter of fact, because they're trying to look for jobs. They're looking for like-minded people. So you would go through this list and find people with those resumes for the financial sector, if that's what you were looking for. They mentioned things like Information Systems Security Association. Now, this is something you could join for free. You could join this organization. You can go check it out for free. I think they have some kind of membership fee once per year or whatever, but you can actually join this thing. And then you can look at this person's experience. Look at the keywords they have. Now, notice this. Look at this. Keyword, FFIEC. Now, the first thing you should be asking yourself is, what the hell is that? Maybe I should know what that is if I'm trying to be a GRC person in the financial sector, because this guy is a GRC person in the financial sector, or at least has worked in the financial sector. So that's kind of what you need to do as far as research, to get yourself in the way of all the opportunity that's happening. Because make no mistake, it is happening in real time. And I know that the economy, has not been doing as well or whatever, but cybersecurity is still hot. Like, I'm still getting opportunities, people contacting me and all kinds of stuff. Let me see. Somebody said I need to whittle down to cyber, getting tons of network jobs. Yeah. I get a lot of, for a while I was getting a lot of project management type opportunities, and that's not really my wheelhouse, So that's not where I shine at. So I kind of, if you have to tighten your resume in a certain way, then that's what you have to do. Make it more in line with what you're actually doing. Another one that I used to get a lot was being a SEAM engineer, because I did that for a couple years. And so I would get, to this day, I still get opportunities for being a SEAM engineer, but I haven't touched a SEAM in a long time. So it's been 4 or 5 years now. So, I mean, I still work with them, but not as an engineer, not building them from scratch, which is what I used to do. So while I could probably make content for it and I know what to look for as far as audit logs, I don't build them anymore, but I still get people contacting me about that. So you got to tighten your resume to go in a specific direction. And the great thing is you could have multiple resumes out there if you want, if you have multiple skill sets. Yeah, so I disagree with this one. I went on a real huge tangent on that one. Let me see if I can answer some more questions. And I'll keep this one short. It looks like I don't have as many people jumping on today, probably because of Super Bowl or something tomorrow. I don't know. But let me see here. More questions for people on YouTube. Let me see here. What's this question coming from? GRC cap preparation. And somebody was asking, oh man, this thing just, all right, this is going crazy here. Is it a red flag? Is it a red flag if a role I'm interviewing for is for both ISO and ISSM work? It could be a couple of things, because this kind of happened to me in the last time with this current job that I have. That kind of happened to me. I went into the interview and I had to interview 3 times. And the first guy who interviewed me was just a screener. They don't know, all they know is what the client is asking them. So they kind of like read a list, and the list is kind of a catch-all. Like it was just a really broad list of things, and it didn't tell me anything really about the job. Once I passed the screening, and it's not really an interview, it's just them asking you some questions from a third-party organization has nothing to do with the actual organization. But once they vet you, they say, okay, we're going to set up a meeting with some manager, some hiring manager. So I went and talked to the hiring manager, and they asked me very broad questions as well. Like I still didn't really know what I was going to do. I knew I was going to be an ISO. That's all I knew. I didn't know the details yet, right? I didn't really know. And then the third interview happened. I got past the second interview, and the third interview was a little confusing because they kind of did me like you're talking about. They asked me about like 2 jobs, and I didn't know it, but until the questions, some of them I nailed them, and then some of them I was like, what? So some of the questions were for an ISO. So those ones I was just nailing those questions, because I just done it so long. But then they start asking me like cloud engineering questions. And I started getting worried because I'm not a cloud engineer, right? I don't know how to set up cloud from scratch. And then I don't know. He was asking me very technical AWS cloud questions, right? So I'm like, I don't know that information. Most of my exposure for cloud came from FedRAMP, where I'm making sure that federal organizations are compliant with risk management framework using FedRAMP. That's my exposure to cloud. Have I gotten cloud systems accredited before? Yes. Have I been a part of risk assessments for cloud systems? Yes. Have I set up systems? No, I haven't, but I would love to be. And this is what I said. I said I would love to know more, and I'm looking forward to jumping in there to do some cloud engineering. Was I really? I mean, I was trying to get this job, right? So, kinda. I would definitely would have been interested in a job where I was doing more cloud, so I can learn it and get that under my belt. So, I wasn't completely lying, but I thought it was an ISO position, so and I didn't want to blow it. So, anyway, come to find out, like when I actually talked to people who were on the ground, like I finally got an interview with the actual technical people. I found out they were actually looking for 2 different positions. There was one position that was kind of a cloud engineering type. They would have to have a cloud engineering skill set. And that's why he was asking me those questions. And then there was another position, the ISO position, which I got. And so this guy, this upper level manager was merging 2 different things together. And I think maybe he was trying to figure out where I was going to be. He was trying to figure out whether I would be in an ISSE is what they call it at this organization, or an ISSO. And so that's why he was asking me both questions. So it wasn't a red flag. It was more like they were trying to figure out where to put me. I think looking back at everything that they asked me, seeing the big picture, and now knowing how the organization works, they were trying to see where to put me. So it might be confusion on the interviewer's part. And you could flat out ask them, like, is this an ISO position or is this an ISSM position? Like, I was under the impression that was an ISO position. You should definitely ask them that. Because remember, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. So make sure you ask them that critical question. In the last 5 years, how much turnover has there been? Because that right there might reveal a red flag. If there's a lot of turnover, it's a red flag. That means something's going on. If they don't want to tell you how much travel you do, that's also a red flag, because that means it's a lot. Because if it's low, they tell you very quickly. If it's a low, they're not going to hold back on that. But if it's a lot, they're like, well, they basically told me it's 3 systems, and I have to operate as an ISM and an ISO, and it's a one-man show. Oh man, yeah, that's kind of a red flag, because they're trying to put 2 hats on you. It could be a red flag. Reason why I say that is because one of the things that happens in cybersecurity is they don't have enough people to do all this work. So a lot of times they'll have us doing 2 and 3 different jobs. And I think it's a couple things happening. Number one, companies are greedy, so they want to hire one person and have them do 3 different jobs. And another thing that's happened is they can't find enough people to do the work. So one thing you could ask them is try to get an idea of how many hours a week, because really it might not matter if you have, depending on the workload, it might not matter that they're dual hatting you, that they're putting 2 hats on you. It might not matter. So you want to figure that one out. Like, you can ask them some like roundabout questions about how much is it shift work? Is it 8-hour shifts? How many people work extra hours to get the work done? Are people pulling extra time to get work done? Ask them questions like that, and you want them to know, hey, I'm a hard worker, but you're trying to gauge like how much actual work there is. Because my problem with being dual hatted is that they're trying to put too much on my plate, and I don't have enough hours in a week to do all the stuff they want to do. Meanwhile, the customer's expecting all this stuff. So I get in front of the customer and they're like asking me stuff that I'm like, I'm only supposed to do X, Y, and Z, but you guys want me to do the whole alphabet. And I have to figure out how I'm going to navigate that. That kind of stuff happens. So scope creep, where you're in your job description, they're saying you're going to do these 3, 4, 5 things. But then when you get to the customer, they're expecting an entire book worth of stuff. That does happen a lot. That's happened to me quite a bit, actually. And I would say before you take the position, or one of the things you should ask about is see if they already told you it's an ISM and an ISSO role. So maybe ask questions about the hours, and then how much what are you responsible for? Are you managing people as an ISM? Like, that's one thing, because I've been in a role where I was kind of an ISM and kind of an ISSO, but I wasn't managing anybody. It was just me. And if I was managing people, it was people who were third-party contractors who were helping me. Like, I could push some of the workload on them. Like, I needed to do like a spreadsheet. The government wanted me to do some spreadsheet, and then I'd say, hey, could you guys go ahead and handle this? And then they would do it. And then I would look at their work and say, well, could you fix this and that? And then that. I wasn't managing them like that. Like, I wasn't their supervisor. They were just helping me to do the work. So and you said, no, I'm not managing anyone, but then it might not be a problem, because the real work of an ISM is where they're managing 3 or 4 different ISSOs. But it might mean that what they want you to do is you're going to be talking to higher level leadership, because that's another ISSMs. One of the things they do is they talk to higher level leadership. That means like C-level execs or like generals or colonels or something like high level people. That's one of the jobs they have to do. And then another thing that they're doing is managing ISSOs who are underneath them. Those are like the main 2 jobs you see them do. They might do other stuff. They might help create the contracting documents to rebid for a contract, or there might be some other things that they do, but those 2 main things, they're talking to upper level managers, and they normally have people underneath them. But if you're not actually managing people, then that shouldn't be too bad. But I would definitely interview them more on that. Like, how much responsibility do you have as an ISM? What is your ISM's responsibilities, and what are your ISSO responsibilities? That's what you should ask them right there. That'll nail it. Okay, let me see if I have any other questions here. Any comments, any engagement, anything going on. I have been going through my questions until something happened with my, okay, there we go. Let's go here. I'm on the back end of my comments. So that's what you're looking at here on the screen. If you happen to be on TikTok. These are my comments from YouTube. Let me see here. Oh, this is a great comment. Somebody talked about the difference between SSCP compared to Security Plus. And they said, yeah, this is a really good comment. David Petrell says the SSCP is about half the CISSP, and the Security Plus is about 30% of the CISSP. Now, I've taken the Security Plus. I have Security Plus and I have a CISSP. I do not have an SSCP, but I would say that that's about right. For Security Plus, it's a percentage, but also the questions are different. Like the types of questions that they ask you on the Security Plus is very different. And that's what makes CISSP hard, is that the CISSP asks like comprehensive situational questions. Like if you change the situation, it's a different answer. Where Security Plus is pretty straightforward. You know, like the difference between a private IP and a public IP, and what are the security issues between those 2 things. Something like that. Like straightforward. It really depends, but the Security Plus questions are way more straightforward, I would say. And the CISSP questions are very, very. It's like a paragraph. You're reading the paragraph, and then your responses are a paragraph. So comprehensive type questions. And I think that's it, guys. I'm gonna let this one go. I'm not gonna go too long. Let me know if you like this format. This is a little bit different. Seems like don't get as much engagement on TikTok when I do this style of showing my screen directly like this using TikTok Studio, but we'll see. We'll just trying stuff out. That's it, guys. Thank you. Let me see. Somebody said, "Could you please mentor me? I'm a final year BS. I don't have time to mentor these days. I just don't have time to do it. I have a full-time job, and so I just don't have time. But what you could do is subscribe, ask me questions. If you buy my course, any question you have, I'll do my very best to answer direct questions from you. That's one of the benefits of actually getting my courses. If you have any questions at all, I will I always, especially to students, I take my time to answer directly. Not just do videos, but like questions that might be like something you can't really put on a video or in a comment online. You could ask me those questions. So I've got free courses. I've got some courses that are reasonable. I've got a ton of books that you can read. I've got some great content here on YouTube, on TikTok, on Facebook. And you're taking the ISS. You're taking the ISC2 certified cybersecurity in a few months. Can I get those links? Okay, no problem. Not a problem. Okay, first one I'm going to give you is the one to my YouTube channel. And it is youtube.com/@Convocourses. Hopefully that link works. Is it backslash or forward slash? Forward slash. And then it's the best way to find those courses is Convocourses.net. Got lots of free stuff, downloadables. My paid stuff is if like I said, you pay for that stuff, I feel obligated to answer directly to my students. Like any kind of questions you have, I'll do my best to answer those questions. Let me see if there's any other things here that I could show you that are good for you to get into. Let me see. The other one would be my books on Amazon. Let me show you those. That's more of a cost-effective approach. If you're interested in that. Let me see if I can find that. So I've written quite a few books that talk about the stuff I'm talking about. It focuses on all the stuff that I talk about here on these channels here, and it's everything from cybersecurity fundamentals to deeper dives into NIST 800, which is my specialty. I'm working on some other stuff that might be extremely helpful to people who follow me here, and I'm having a hard time finding my authors page, so bear with me. Convocourses. Yeah, I was doing mentorships for a while. I found that I just don't have time to do it. I gotta choose. I have to choose my time wisely, and that's kind of what I've been doing. Bruce Brown. Amazon. There we go. This is my last link, guys. Thank you guys for watching every week. Really appreciate it. There's my link to all the books if you're interested in that. You guys take care. All right. I just logged off of TikTok. All right, guys. Take care. Thank you for watching. I appreciate everybody. I'll see you guys next week.